Born with the gift of the gab. With MagMongoSlade. Shoot. He don't miss.
Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. I am your host, MagMongoSlade. Today we're going to do pro wrestling hot takes. This is a request from King Shady in the Discord. He asked me to follow this and do a sort of a, not a review, but basically let's just look at some of the things that people have been saying across the wrestling internet. So this thing has 1.6 million views and it has an untold number of responses. So we're going to go through some of them just to see if they're funny or ridiculous. So let's see. This is from Twitter, of course. Here's one. Main event wrestlers should have 2 to 3 finishers. That's why I like Gunther so much. Actually, I'm okay with these guys having multiple finishers, as long as they're established finishers. I don't like the sleeper for Gunther. That thing kind of sucks. Here's another one. Triple H isn't as good of a booker people say. Yeah, I said it. Well, I agree with that. I don't think it's that great. This one is in French. Let's see if it's appropriately translated. The fans are stupid as hell. Luckily, they are not in charge of booking because the ideas and opinions we see are really scary, and they never take a step back from the nonsense they say. Well, I agree with some of that. The parts that made sense, like the fans being stupid, I agree. And thank God they don't have the book. Yes, praise God they don't have the book. Could you imagine some of the stupid shit we'd have to sit through if some fans had the book? Oh, Jesus Christ. We would be in a really bad situation if some fans had the book. The Spade brothers and heels are the true villains of the series, who, when confronted with common sense solutions to problems, they decide to ruin it for themselves and everyone. What a fucking show, man. People still watch heels? Oh, Lord. Why would you do that? Here's another one. Matches should end with moved other than finishers on TV. Would add to the drama if Sami Zayn won with the Blue Thunder Bomb every now and then. So when he kicks out, it means something. This feels like a question, a statement that somebody else already made about guys having 2 or 3 finishers. When I think about people winning matches without the finisher, I think of the Bret Hart finishes. You know, the small package, the roll-ups, things like that. Those things should win matches. And I think, especially on TV. To me, stealing a win from a small package or a schoolboy roll-up or whatever is much better than beating somebody flat in the ring with a finish. Here's another one. He should have never been allowed to take over. He means Triple H. I feel no former wrestler should have been allowed to do it. Wrestling is ego-driven. A lot of guys won't get chances because they rub Triple H or one of the boys the wrong way. That's the case with anybody. That's the case with any job. This is not anything special. Triple H is going to put his guys in power. That's what he does. That's what he wants to do. And you're not wrong, but it would apply to anybody. You want to have somebody with some wrestling experience, but that simply applies to everybody. Here's another one. Refs should call matches a lot tighter, enforce the count out, toss the seconds when they interfere, call a DQ, control the match. Yes, I agree with this because that makes it feel more realistic. The downside of that is the boys are going to complain that the crowd is here to see us, not to see the ref. And if the ref gets too involved, then the boys are going to complain. I think Johnny Nitro complained at one point about the way that they refereed at house shows in WWE. Or was it on TV? It was one or the other about, the referees being too involved. So there's some history of referees doing too much. So you need to take that into account. And I'm okay with a little bit of leeway, but guys being outside the ring 5 or 10 minutes, that's kind of ridiculous. Guys outside the ring 3 minutes, all right, that's nonsense. Not enforcing countouts or not enforcing disqualifications. It's really terrible. Here's another one. The current WWE Renaissance would be much better received by online smart fans if literally anybody but Triple H was the face of it. Even it was exactly the same in terms of booking, pushes, champions, etc. I disagree. because for me, it's always a personnel issue. Even if the booking is okay, the guys that you choose to push is always going to be a problem. If they were pushing the same guys, I would have the same problems because I don't like the same guys. It wouldn't matter to me. I'm not a fan of Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. I love Gunther. Gunther is fine. But a lot of the other guys, I'm kind of like, I can do without DIY. Even though I like Tommaso Ciampa, I mean, if I have to get rid of Ciampa to get rid of Gargano, see you Ciampa. You know, it's just, I think it would be worse if somebody else took over. You know, here's one that's actually a legitimate hot take. Shane McMahon should have been WWE champion. You know what? This is a legitimate hot take, and this is something I can actually take seriously. Now, at what point in time would Shane McMahon have been a believable WWE champion? Well, I think he probably could have got away with it during the World Heavyweight Championship era of, Spike TV or whatever. Now, he wasn't around as much at that time, but you probably could have got Shane McMahon as a world champion around that time. Now, being a WWE champion, like the actual WWE champion, maybe if they'd have gave it to him instead of Vince, it probably would have been believable. Like if he took Vince's title win, I think that would have been fine, and it would have been fun. Shane McMahon as a European champion is, forgotten. But Shane McMahon, especially when he matured and he got, he got some weight on him and he became better, it would have been fine as a champion as far as I'm concerned. Hell, we can do worse. Shane McMahon certainly has the chops to have been world champion. The next one. Flash finishes should be a common thing. I don't care if it's not your finisher. You go for a dive or a move and get caught with an unexpected knee, elbow, super kick. People get knocked out in boxing or MMA all the time. That should be a part of pro wrestling. You know what? I actually do like this. Occasionally. I think that if you occasionally catch a guy off guard and you knock him out, that's actually fine. And I think it's fine for television. And it's another one of those things where you could do it and make it seem like a fluke, and it could be a fun thing to happen. Or you combine this with something else. Let's say Cesaro is wrestling a guy like AJ Styles. And AJ Styles goes for the phenomenal forearm. And instead, Cesaro hits him with a European uppercut. And, AJ Styles takes a huge bump. And then very quickly, Cesaro rolls him up with a small package and pins him. 100% a believable finish. 100% a believable finish. And it doesn't bury AJ Styles. It shows that he made a mistake and Cesaro took advantage of it. 100% believable. You can do that kind of stuff all the time. That makes wrestling exciting. Next, we need a random but fresh WrestleMania where someone unexpectedly wins the Rumble, and I think Trick Williams and Gigi Dolan are perfect candidates. I'm very confused. I'm guessing you mean we need somebody to win the Royal Rumble that's unexpected. I always had this sort of idea that maybe somebody from NXT should win the Royal Rumble, and I don't think it'll happen anytime soon. It would more than likely would have happened under Vince. I think he probably could have pitched it to Vince that somebody like, Tiffany Stratton should have won the Royal Rumble while in NXT or something. He probably would have bit on that. Triple H, no. He has a hate boner for the youth. Here's another one. The reaction to SmackDown getting Megan Thee Stallion music for its opening just goes to show most of you dorks do not know what casual is actually like. You're just mad it's not 1997 anymore. I'll tell you this. That last line is real. And I've been saying that on this channel for a really long time. That people are stuck in 98 and 97. But that opening line about, what casuals actually like, I'm not sure casuals like Megan Thee Stallion. I know she's very popular. You see her all over TikTok and Twitter and all that. I've never heard anybody like just listening to Megan Thee Stallion in person. I've seen her play in clubs. I've heard her in Ubers where somebody's got the radio going. But like somebody just rocking Megan Thee Stallion on their own, never heard of it. Never heard of it. Then again, I'm 40, so maybe I'm not around enough. Here's another one that's a legitimate hot take. The Elimination Chamber sucks. I disagree with this, but it's at least a legitimate hot take. It's legitimately something that, is questionable. The Elimination Chamber is a fine match. It's an actual fix of a lot of those kinds of matches that I don't typically like, with the intervals in between. Because it's like a gauntlet in a cage. So I actually don't hate the Elimination Chamber. Here's another one. I think a big reason Triple H and HBK have been able to make NXT so special, it's because they have more creative freedom to book shows how they want in their vision. Triple H booking on the main roster isn't going to be the exact same as NXT, because he has to appeal to a different audience and higher ups on the TKO board that he doesn't have to in NXT. When Triple H was booking NXT, Vince never fully paid attention or really cared much about the product, which is why NXT was outshining Raw and SmackDown for years. Now that he's on the main roster booking, it's different because he has different surroundings. Yes. I think people get more comfortable if you give them space, and I think Vince never really gave anybody any space. And I think that's something that the writers have always complained about. That the writers was always like, oh, I had this great idea, but Vince never went with it. Everybody thinks that. Everybody thinks that their ideas are great until Vince tells them no. And then all of a sudden, 20 years ago, I had this fantastic idea to make Sylvain Grenier the Intercontinental Champion. And Vince said no. It's like, oh yeah, because it's dumb as fuck. That's why. Here's another one. Wrestling needs characters to be good. And I don't mean smarmy CrossFit athlete laughs at charismaless CrossFit athlete for defending a female CrossFit athlete. Wrestling needs zombies, wild men, divas from the future, etc. You know what? I am not against that. I'm a huge fan of the New Generation era, where there was a pig farmer, there was a garbage man. It was silly. It was over to Maximum and Techno Team 2000. You right up my goddamn alley, brother. And it needs to be played for straight. It doesn't need to be silly and over top. It needs to be straight up. That's what makes Undertaker work. The commitment to the gimmick. It made it work. The Mankind gimmick. There was a commitment to the gimmick. Goldust. There was a commitment to the gimmick. It wasn't like they were, oh no, I got to do this. When you saw Goldust, he was Goldust. And he was great. It doesn't matter that he wasn't supposed to be in the suit and why it's just Dustin Rhodes. Why is he this? The commitment to the gimmick made it work. If you commit to a silly gimmick, it will eventually get over. Danhausen is a proof of that. People used to like Danhausen. Not so much anymore. The interruptions are getting annoying. I guess you mean interrupting promos. Here's one. It's actually pretty interesting. There are too many belts. Companies should have just tag belts, world title, and maybe one mid-card title if you have enough people per division. Yes, the problem with WWE is there's essentially three different brands. So they have three, world champions, three mid-card titles, etc. To have one title for all three brands, then what are they fighting for in NXT? What are they fighting for on SmackDown? And you can say, well, it's personal issues. It's like, yeah, but there's a spectacle of the champion and all that kind of stuff. AEW absolutely has too many titles. They have 3 mid-card belts. They have 2 sets of tag belts. And I mean, the trios, that's a tag title. I don't know. But I get it. I get that it's too many championships, but they need to go back to single brand pay-per-views. That's my hot take. Here's another one. Not everything needs to happen on Mania or SummerSlam. Switch it up. Put some crazy shit on those B-tier PLEs. Hell, put some crazy title change on Raw and SmackDown. I agree with this. I think that there are moments that really should only happen at WrestleMania, but then there are smaller moments that can happen at, your backlashes or, your Judgment Days or whatever kind of pay-per-view you're going to have. And I actually agree with that. When Jeff Hardy won the title at Armageddon, it would have been a bigger moment if it was WrestleMania. It certainly would have been. It would have been a huge moment. Could you imagine if Jeff Hardy won the title at WrestleMania rather than wrestling? I think he wrestled Matt at WrestleMania that year. Oh my God! If he'd have won the title, it'd have been crazy. But But him winning it at a B tier pay-per-view made that pay-per-view special. It made it something that people are willing to watch over and over again. And you do have to pepper the year with stuff like that. I get that they try to save certain things for SummerSlam and WrestleMania, but you could do title switches at B tier pay-per-views or on Raw or SmackDown to keep things interesting. I'll never forget Lashley winning the title on Raw. That was tremendous. Maybe because I'm a super fan, but that made it very special for me. And it also punishes people who don't watch the show. You know, if you book a title match for the show and there's never going to be a championship change on TV, people become conditioned with that. If you switch a title on TV, that actually helps because people now say, oh, there's a chance that something could happen. Here's another one. WWE has too many good tag teams for the division to be so trash. The Creed Brothers, Pretty Deadly, DIY, Street Profits, LWO, and more. It should be banger feuds going on, but the titles are stuck to people in other feuds, not even dealing with the titles. This gets a heart from me just for being sensible. I like it. I like that. That's a pretty good idea. They certainly need to put more effort into that tag team division. The tag team division is in the toilet. It's very bad in WWE. It's bad in AEW too, but it's extremely bad in WWE. Here's one. It's kind of ridiculous. Solo Sikoa should have dethroned Cody Rhodes. No, I don't think so. I can't justify that one. If anything, if we'd have punted the feud down a little bit further, then maybe. But at this point in time, no, I can't justify that. Here's another one. It's an actual hot take. Too many heel turns. I need someone to turn face, but who should it be? What are you talking about? I get the too many heel turns, because heel turns, you can't do them every week. But sometimes they drag things out, and people don't typically turn face, but that could happen too. It just depends on how you choose to do it. Here's another one. Pro wrestling fans very rarely know how to objectively judge the performance of wrestlers unless they have been in a wrestling ring or spend a lot of time around the business side, and should be scolded for thinking they have any authority to weigh in beyond personal preference. Who are you, you dork? Oh, he's got pronouns in his bio, so we're going to keep moving. Next, my roll-up take is that a lot more popular than I thought, so here's a real hot take. Rhea Ripley would not be as popular as she is if it wasn't for hot goth girls being trendy. Whoa. Is that really trendy? Because I think that's been a thing since the 90s. I think that might have been a thing since the 80s. I remember people being obsessed with hot goth girls since the days of, what was the show? Charmed? In movies and TV shows like that. I don't know if it just happened. But I think being a big, muscly goth chick definitely helped. It helped a lot. Here's another one. The landmass known as the United Kingdom has done irreparable damage to modern-day wrestling journalism, let alone wrestling as a whole. I gotta give you a heart for this because I absolutely agree. The UK wrestling media is dog shit. And that's another one of those things I've been saying since the beginning. What culture, Cultaholic. Did I say Russell Culture? Russell Talk. All those guys. All these dudes are awful. It's almost like sometimes they share a brain cell. So it's really bad. I hate European wrestling fans. I'm sorry. I can't stand you people. Next, not every story should be a year long, and when someone is on fire, pull the trigger on them right then and not wait 6 months to push them. I'll say this. I agree not every story should be a year. You shouldn't have to drag out every storyline. I will agree with that. But the idea of, when somebody's on fire, pull the trigger on them, yes and no. You don't want to buy into fads. You don't want to buy into things that are hot right now and doesn't have any longevity to it. There are times when the company is wrong and they should have jumped on something when they had the chance. I think Rusev Day is one of those things. But there's also things that were basically just fads, and that would be like Zack Ryder. That there was no long term with that Long Island IZ stuff. That stuff didn't have any legs to it for real. It was popular with the fans and it deserved to be on TV, but US title, that sounds about right. But Rusev Day, I think, definitely deserved more than what he got. Next, WWE should stop chasing attendance records for WrestleMania and book arenas again. The crowd sounded dead the last few WrestleManias. I do think that a WrestleMania in an arena would be interesting. I get it. They love the idea of a stadium, but having attended stadium shows, I can tell you that you lose a lot in a stadium. The sound, the energy. Yes, you sell more tickets at a higher price, but there is a great deal of energy in having a big show in a big arena, but not a stadium. Maybe a 30,000 seater will be pretty good. Like, look, maybe they could sell out the big house at U of M, which I think is 100,000 seats. Maybe they can sell that joint out, and then they'll hit maximum what they can do, and to decide, okay, we'll just go back to running a Little Caesars Arena for WrestleMania. But then again, they're leaving a lot of money on the table by doing that, so it's a business decision. I'm skipping some of the ones that are that I've seen multiple times. Here's another one. Money in the Bank is a bigger PLE than Survivor Series. Well, yeah, that's obvious, I think, at this point. I think that it eclipsed Survivor Series several years ago. I think when Punk won the title at Money in the Bank, it eclipsed Survivor Series. Because I don't even remember what happened at Survivor Series that year. Here's another one. Biker Taker is the only good version of Undertaker. Well, you're incorrect. Got to tell you that you are incorrect. Here's another one. Jey Uso is not that good. Well, everybody hates Jey Uso now, so this is not really a hot take. Here's another one. Draws are fine, actually. Depending on how you do it. AEW doing time limit draws on TV depends on who's involved. Like, when they did Danielson versus Omega, that was a great usage of a time limit draw because you didn't want to beat Danielson. He had just come in, but you didn't want to give him the belt either. So going to a time limit draw made sense. There are ways of doing that. There are ways of countouts and disqualifications being legitimate finishes. I agree with that. Here's another one. A good percentage of the IWC are soy boy wokies who think bowing down to the opinions of women is going to get them some cool points and pussy. This is true, but a lot of these guys are cucks. So, I mean, it is what it is. It's unfortunate, but they are. They do things for approval. Their pussy is, they wouldn't dare ask for that. They're just fine with a head pat and a hug. Here's another one. There needs to be more non-hyper muscle toned men's champions that get a good title reign. Look, stop trying to get me to like the JD Drakes of the world. I'm not going to watch these guys. I don't like them, all right? You're pushing it with Sami Zayn. You're pushing it. You're not... Look is very important as far as I'm concerned. All right, here's another one. Stop complaining about wrestlers taking chair shots to the head. They are adults who know the risks. If they want to do it, it's not because they didn't know the potential ramifications. Well, you say that, but then we look at the concussion lawsuit where guys had to know that getting hit in the head wasn't good for them. And a bunch of them was like, oh, I hit my head. I blame Vince McMahon. Give me $1 million. Like, no, you're not doing that. You might as well protect the athletes from themselves, which is the best option. And if you let guys do weird stuff to each other, it just blows back on you in the end. I mean, Vince has had so many issues where I just saw this clip earlier today, actually, where Vince is sitting and being grilled on the amount of dead wrestlers that worked for him. And Vince is saying he has no responsibility for that. And the guy's like, you have no responsibility. They worked for you. And all Vince has to say is, man, do you know how many of these guys were on drugs? Painkillers, cocaine, alcohol. Some of them had mental issues and committed suicide. I mean, it's not what you portray. That's not like wrestling killed them. it's a collection of the lifestyle and the physicality and all that kind of stuff. But you choose to be a wrestler, But Vince is often blamed for how many wrestlers have passed away over the years. And I think that is unfair. And I think that making the business somewhat safer is their way of protecting themselves from that. So that guys won't go out there and get hit in the head with stuff and develop some kind of TBI and do something silly like kill themselves. Here's another one. Fundamentally, you're not trying to kill your opponent. You're not even trying to knock them out. Just get them down for a 3 count. So stuff like the pinned guy watching the count to conserve energy is okay. Don't believe me? Let's do some pin drills. Okay. I mean, I can see that, but I still don't want to see it. I get it, but I still don't want to see it. Here's another one. Some of y'all have parasocial relationships with wrestlers. I would add, and it's weird. I will add, and it's weird, and it's extremely weird. Stop being weird. Here's another one. The idea that I see a lot of that someone should be in singles is preposterous. Wrestlers should work both simultaneously. I guess I mean tags too. And there's absolutely no demerit in working a tag run. In fact, many guys have rejuvenated their runs doing exactly that. I agree. I don't think being in a tag team takes away from a guy. If you put Randy Orton in a tag team, which is what they did, rated RKO, it extended his career probably. I don't think being in the tag team hurt him at all. It gave him the opportunity to give somebody a rub, and it conserved Randy for big matches on pay-per-view or TV if you need him to work singles. So I agree with this, that not everybody needs to be a singles wrestler. But I also think that just because you're a tag team wrestler doesn't mean you get to be held back from being a great singles wrestler too. Looking at you, Montez Ford. Here's another one. I actually agree with this. I said it earlier. More countouts and DQ finishes. I don't think we need more disqualifications, to be quite honest. I think that disqualification just needs to make sense. Let's see. Bring back the 24/7 division? No. I hate that damn belt. Here's another one. Need for strong heels, not those running away or appearing weak and needing to cheat to win. Bring back those Bray Wyatt type of heel that makes you concerned for the babyface. Well, you need to book according to what the guy brings to the table. Bray was a big guy, so he could work that way. Undertaker's a big guy. He can do that. But if you're Dominic Mysterio, you're absolutely not going to be some big, dominant heel. He's small, wiry, a shitty, cowardly heel. That works just as well. It all works depending on how good you are at it. It works, and you got to book them against unique characters. So, here's another one. Solo Sikoa would be thriving on the main roster if he was still the street champion character and not a Wish version of the tribal chief who is supposed to be taken seriously when all he did was lose for a year and never show emotion as Roman's enforcer. Okay. I don't know if he would be a main eventer if he was a street champion. I think everything he did worked. I think that this tribal chief thing is working because it's absurd. Him being a tribal chief is ridiculous. But it's working. Now, I know that he is not the best in this role, but having a fake tribal chief has really helped Roman get over as a babyface. Here's another one. Gimmick finishers rule. Foley's mandible claw, Tajiri's green mist, Santino's cobra, the Hurricane's cruiserweight chokeslam, Goldust shattered dreams, Scotty 2 Hottie's worm, Rikishi's stink face. Bring back the fun. Okay, I actually am okay with this. I do think that some of the silly moves can work, but again, it has to depend on the character, and the character has to fit the character and it has to fit the gimmick. But you also have to take into account that if you give a guy a silly gimmick move, it makes him look bad. Like the People's Elbow looked like shit. But The Rock was cool enough to make it work. Other people, it would have looked like shit, and people would have laughed at him. All right, here's one that I kind of figured was coming. CM Punk is hugely overrated as an in-ring performer. I don't think CM Punk has always been that athletic. He's not athletic at all. He's always good enough. I don't think he was ever like the best in the world in the ring. He's just good enough. He can get done what he wants done. He's not Kurt Angle or Benoit or Eddie Guerrero or anything like that. He's not an athletic freak. He's also not, the strongest guy in the world. But I think he's a pretty good performer in the ring. I don't hate him. Here's one that's actually interesting. WCW in the mid-90s is the peak of TV professional wrestling. WWE does not compare. AEW and TNA aren't the same. Great variety of matches, characters, and stories. So, WCW in the mid-90s. I guess you mean 96. Because I'm pretty sure you don't mean 94. Okay. I do think that there was a great deal of variety in terms of the performers and the kind of matches they were in. But honestly, the Cruiserweight division gets a lot of credit. That TV title division does not. The U.S. Championship, The Cruiserweight division gets a lot of credit. But who the hell does it ever care who the TV champion was? Only when guys like Guerrero or Jericho or Dean Malenko or somebody like that who was in the Cruiserweight division slinked over into the U.S. title and TV title divisions did those things really jump. I don't think people really cared that much about Scott Norton and Fit Finlay and people like that. I just don't think they cared. Glacier and all that. I don't know. But I could be wrong, Just saying. Let's do a couple of more minutes. And hopefully we find something really good. Triple H is slowly destroying the WWE. I don't want to say he's destroying it. That's just being spiteful and over the top. But I'm not a fan. He's certainly changing the culture. I'm not a big fan of that. Here's another one. There are barely any submission specialists and hardly ever a match where it ends in submission. Well, that's not true. I think the submission specialist has been downgraded. And people don't like submission finishers, really. I think it's hard to get a submission hold over. I think, a guy like Charlie Dempsey is going to have a hell of a time getting over as a mat-based submission-style wrestler. That's, it's important to the business. It helps. It works. But it's a pain in the ass. It's hard for these guys to get it to work. Liv Morgan needs to be given a hell of a lot more credit for her skills in ring, acting, and on the mic. She's better now than she was before. And I will say this, Liv Morgan grew into the role. 10 years ago, that's how long she's been around, she was awful. All right? She was not good. But they stuck to it. That's one thing I would give WWE credit for. Liv Morgan was on that roster. She got chunky when she was a part of the Riot Squad. She actually got kind of fat. And then she disappeared for a long time. She got in shape, but she still wasn't all that good. But they stuck with it. They saw something in there. She had a charisma. She had a personality. Her in-ring stuff just wasn't working out. And they kept with it. And she developed a personality that kind of overshadows her in-ring work. And now it doesn't matter that she's not that great. Now she's a heel. And she's a tiny girl, so it doesn't matter anyway. She can work with somebody who's much bigger. And it kind of hides her deficiencies in the ring. She's not going to be in the ring doing drop-down roll-ups and trying to be Chris Benoit. It's not going to work. But being what she is now can certainly work in the ring. In terms of you want to see her get her ass kicked. So it doesn't matter if she can't execute the moves the best. Her execution is not great. All right. Here's another one. Catchphrases are fucking stupid. You're an idiot. You gotta be kidding me. Punk's collision was fucking great. And the only reason why certain people hate it is because they hate CM Punk. Was it perfect? No. But to say that it was terrible and or boring is fucking laughable. And I really question your taste in pro wrestling. This has become a thing I saw on the internet quite a bit. Is people who hate CM Punk's collision. I remember I've never really been a huge fan of the AEW product in general, but I didn't hate those episodes of Collision. They seem to be booked like regular wrestling shows where guys will go out there, they do squash matches to get over. There'll be some promos. Punk was the central character of the show, so Punk had his own little orbit of guys that he worked with, and he helped elevate those guys, and it didn't really hurt that some of those guys were underrated, like Ricky Starks and Malachi Black, or guys that had been around for a little while, but he's doing something different with them, like FTR. I didn't have a problem with that, but I've never been a huge fan of the AEW product. But Punk's Collision compared to whatever the fuck they're doing now, night and day. Night and day. Here's another one. Tony Khan is basically doing what Vince did for decades when it comes to strong-arming other promotions under the guise of partnerships. You know what? I actually like this. This is just leverage. When you're the bigger company, you can do whatever you want. You can call your shot. That's all it really is. It's not a Vince thing. It's a leverage thing. When all the territories used to work together, the bigger territories would get favor. You know, that was the deal back when those companies trying to work together against WWF. It was, okay, well, I'm the one that got, the money, or my stars are bigger, I draw more, or whatever, or you working in my territory, you get to call the shots. I mean, that's all AEW is doing, is the big dog in the yard. Here's another one. If a wrestler has a manager, those managers should be able to throw challenge flags. Like in football? Like, my guy just got pinned with a power bomb. I don't think so. Ref, you can't count. And I'm gonna challenge the decision. What is there to challenge? If the guy tapped out, what is there to challenge? I don't know. I guess there are some situations where, the manager pulling some cards. Like, I just watched, Beware of Dogs, Shawn Michaels, British Bulldog, right? And it ended with a double pin. Two referees, one pinned Shawn's shoulders, the other one pinned Davy's shoulders, and they held up and they said, it is a draw. And the people shit all over it because they hated that finish. In that situation, if you had Cornette say, oh, I'm gonna pull some strings or whatever, okay, I can see why you would do that, but like a challenge flag in the middle of the match, like, how does that work? Why can't you do that in UFC? Why can't a UFC guy's manager challenge his tap out? Well, yeah, my guy's brain is exposed, but he could have won. Like, no, that's not how that works. Liv Morgan's title reign is one of the worst in history of any title. She didn't need the title in this story, and they could have let someone more deserving have it and defend it. I disagree. I think her having the title is central to this story, because part of her story was taking back everything from Rhea Ripley. So now Rhea Ripley's redemption is taking everything, or at least destroying what Liv Morgan has. And one of those things is her title reign, which is the only thing she can get back. She can't get back Dominic. She can't get back Judgment Day. The only thing she can get back is the title. So it makes sense for her to be chasing the belt, and it makes sense for Liv Morgan to have it. Otherwise, it's just a personal thing. Here's another one. WWE is dropping the ball with a real Nick Aldis. I think he's going to get in the ring eventually. I think this Nigel McGuinness thing is probably going to push WWE to get Nick Aldis in the ring. Nick Aldis wants to wrestle, for God's sake, and I think somebody's going to talk them into Nick Aldis wrestling. I thought he was going to wrestle Adam Pearce. It seemed like that's the direction they were going in. I think they should go back in that direction. Or they should do, one of those things where both of them captain a Survivor Series team. If they can't wrestle one-on-one and make people care, just say, how about Raw versus SmackDown at Survivor Series, traditional 5-on-5. And then Adam Pearce thinks he's going to get one up on Nick Aldis by actually wrestling for his team, only to find out that Nick Aldis is going to wrestle for his team too. That would have been great. That's a good way to do it until, you can actually get people to care about them wrestling each other one-on-one. But I do think Nick Aldis will eventually get in the ring. Here's another one. You don't have to do 420 flips to be good at wrestling. I will raise you one. Doing 420 flips almost guarantees that you're not good at wrestling. because wrestling does not have flips in it at all, period. We accept the acrobatics and the athletics because it's a part of the show. But the wrestling element doesn't really involve flips at all. Here's another one. Probably not a hot take, but TV matches don't always have to be 20 plus minutes. 10 to 15 wouldn't hurt. And dragging storylines does more harm than good. I 100% don't agree that TV matches don't need to be 20 minutes. I think a 20-minute TV match every now and again is fine. But every week, get out of here. Please, kick rocks. It's ridiculous. That's a AEW staple right there. 15, 20-minute TV match. Lord, what are you thinking? What do you think? What could you have done in that 20 minutes? You could have got a lot more done with your real estate. Here's another one. I hate seeing shoot interviews from people still wrestling with a strict gimmick or friendly videos from heels. Please spit on people at autograph signings and tell them you'll kill their kids. We're not in that era anymore. I don't think that'll work. I don't think Abdullah the Butcher chasing guys around with knives who's trying to do interviews is going to work in today's world. People are very quickly going to tell you to grow the fuck up and, don't act the fool in public. Here's another one. 90% of ref spots in big matches are cheap as fuck, unoriginal, and ultimately feel like lazy writing. It depends on how you do it. I wish they would be more creative. I would say that. But ref bumps are incredibly useful. Just can't overdo it. You can't have multiple ref bumps on the show. I'll say that. Here's another one. Visiting wrestling veterans, visiting developmental brands they have no business being in feels like the wrestling version of an adult within 15 feet of a K-12 school. This is ironic considering CM Punk was just on NXT, but I'm guessing that's what this was all about, is CM Punk being on NXT. I disagree. I think that veterans being on the developmentals is what helps the development of the talent. They are there to work with people who are more experienced than they are. So they got to have people, and the bigger the star, the better. But developmental has always had guys around who've been in the business for a long time. And it helps them grow. So I don't see the problem. Here's another one. Kyle O'Reilly has the best catalog of WWE tag team matches of the 2010s. Maybe the entire century. Hey, look, I like me some Undisputed Era. I really do. But I'm not so sure if I agree with that. Here's another one. Babyfaces should lose last man standing matches or I quit matches, but they never will because John Cena ruined it with the never give up, never quit lifestyle. Rey Mysterio lost an I quit match. He lost to Chavo Guerrero when he had he was tied up upside down. And Rey can get away with a lot because he's small. So he can be tiny and lose an I quit match. Now, Babyface could absolutely lose a last man standing match. I'm not tripping on that. But typically, I quit matches and hair versus hair matches, babyfaces really shouldn't lose. I know sometimes it happens, but I'm not a huge fan of babyfaces don't lose and I quit matches. I'm just not. Submission matches and stuff like that. I don't like babyfaces quitting. I don't like babyfaces giving up. I don't like it. Here's one. This is an AEW one, which is one of the rarer ones. People have been ragging on WWE a lot. AEW completely fumbled Mercedes Moné's return by waiting to announce her in Boston and then doing dick all with her for months besides some mid promos. The CEO chant was lightning in a bottle, but her ability to captivate on the mic was not. Then how did they fumble her if she wasn't good on the mic? She should have took some acting classes while she was out. I agree that they should have just brought her out when they had the chance, when it would have been hot and interesting. They dragged it and teased it and dragged it. And then when it finally came, everybody was like, that's it. And it would have been a bigger surprise and a bigger impact if they did it sooner. And then it could have really just marketed the big coming home gimmick when she was going to Boston. I'm trying to skip the some of the ones that are repetitive and stuff like this, but okay, this one's interesting. It seems like a lot of people view women's wrestling as a fetish and don't care about the talent if they don't find them attractive. There's a reason why the dentist got panned for having an ass match, but not another wrestler. I'm sorry. What is the problem? If a guy has a really bad match, typically people will say that it was a really bad match and then give him hell for it. I think part of what made The Dentist a problem was the backstage issues. And then people started seeing her as The Dentist because they said, oh, she's sandbagging and all that. So it's not about whether she's attractive or not. I don't see it from that perspective. Now, women's wrestlers need to be attractive for people to care. I do agree with that. And I think it's incredibly misogynistic, but it's facts-based booking. People care about beautiful women, and people want to see beautiful women. You can have a good-looking woman or even a mud duck, but you have to book her appropriately. And then if she is really good at promos or personality, she'll get over, you know? But it helps to be good looking. Here is one that is absolutely the opposite. 95% of women's wrestling sucks, and everyone knows it. I think, I don't want to say 95. I would say over 50%. A lot of the women are not as athletic as the men. Most of them don't have the personality of the men. So that's the handicap right there. But if you have a woman who is an absolute gem, meaning that she has personality, she looks great, you know, she's worth 2 or 3 men. Because the men are a dime a dozen. But a woman who is like a complete and total package, like a prime Charlotte, she's more interesting as, you know, than a bunch of tag team guys or mid singles acts. I would rather have one Charlotte than a bunch of like whoever mid single wrestler who was okay, but you know maybe got overhyped. I would rather have somebody like her on the roster than them. Absolutely. The thing is, she's difficult to find, you know, and either you have to manufacture it like they pretty much had to do with Charlotte, and go down to NXT and try to manufacture all these women who are total packages, because the average woman is not athletic. The average woman is not really all that tough, and she's not really all that charismatic, you know. But so you have to create that, and that's what WWE learned, is that you can't go out and just find women and then they work, because women have tremendous charisma because they're beautiful, and part of that is the makeup and you know big boobs and stuff, but being able to communicate and then being athletic, all that stuff is difficult. That's difficult to find in a woman. So yes, most women's wrestlers are not very good, but a lot of that is to do with their training and the fact that they are not naturally athletic anyway. And so many women get into wrestling without having done any really athletics is a problem, which is a positive for WWE because they get like college athletes. But the amount of social workers who just decide they want to be pro wrestlers is a problem on the women's side. Not so much on the men, because you never really see those people. You know, those, you know, like I think Hangman Page was a teacher or something like that. But those people are like very rare. Like some guy who didn't have any sort of athletic background at all turned into a pretty good pro wrestler. And I'm being nice to Hangman Page, so you should give me credit for that. All right, here's one that's pretty ridiculous and actually something I actually expected to see earlier, but I'm actually surprised I didn't see this earlier. It's just happening now. Wrestling is objectively gay. Well, considering gay means homosexual, there's no sex involved with wrestling. I guess anytime 2 guys are in close proximity not wearing shirts, that's gay. Well, you would have to be gay to think that. Here's another one. Jack Perry would be an incredibly cowardly heel if he stopped trying to be a cool heel. I think you kind of got it disorganized in your brain a little bit. And I agree. He's small, and it would work if he tried to be like Dominic Mysterio. That would work. You know, Dominic Mysterio is basically like the standard for small shit-eating heel now. He's even surpassed MJF in that regard. And Jack Perry could be in that same class because he's the same size, you know. And I think Cornette's idea for Jack Perry is actually the best idea for Jack Perry. That is, he's the son of a movie star, so use that. People can't relate to that character because nobody else is the son of a movie star. Use the fact that he's got money, that he's got a hot girl, and let it work for him. Why is Dominic Mysterio doing that and Jack Perry isn't doing it? That's dumb. It's dumb for Jack Perry to not do it. Okay, here's an interesting one. Triple H, while great at what he does, is seemingly wasting AJ Styles' final years in the industry. Wasting AJ Styles and not allowing him to work on TV or placing him in situations where he can shine the most is so unfortunate. Come on, Triple H, send AJ Styles to Raw. Oh, this is a good one because this is AJ Styles' last contract, and he's only been working house shows since Backlash. I think that because AJ Styles has only been working house shows, I see why, because this is his last run. You don't want to invest too much into him, but we need to. We need to make it a big deal that AJ Styles is on the verge of retirement. So we need to get as much in as we possibly can. Maybe we can talk AJ into sticking around for the John Cena tour, and maybe he could be one of Cena's big opponents at one of those big shows. You know, AJ Styles has magically become one of John Cena's best rivals. I know that's unreal, but it is, you know. And I actually agree with this. I think AJ Styles could be doing a lot more, especially when you see the undercard champions are struggling. Guys like LA Knight are struggling to maintain heat. Or if you have an issue, just put AJ Styles in the tag team division again like he was with Omos. But put him in there with somebody else. I think that would be nice. You know, or put him with his friends and let them run around NXT for a little while. But I definitely think you could be doing more with AJ Styles than what they are doing. Here's one that people are going to get upset about. Evolution should be an annual PLE for WWE. There's enough talent in the women's division, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, to make that happen. I'm going to agree with you. I do think they should have an Evolution show every single year. They should have them twice a year, actually. They should have many Evolution shows. In fact, they should have 52 Evolution shows a year. By having one a week, they should just have a Sunday show or a Thursday afternoon show that's all women. And I'm telling you, you put Jada Parker on that show, people will watch it. All right? Take my word for it. People will watch the show if you advertise Jada Parker on that show. People will watch it. All right. We're getting close to the end here. He says, I'm sick of a lot of the SmackDown roster's booking, playing second fiddle to the bloodline for the millionth time. Even when Roman was off TV, half of that time that they drew out segments that could have gotten people on TV for the first time in months since being drafted. You know what? I don't hate that. I think that it was helpful to have Roman out of the way, but Roman's been out of the way for 4 years, you know. He comes in, he has really long promos, but that's about it. But finally, he wasn't the champion. There was an opportunity to do something else, and they chose not to do things that matter with Roman. I mean, with other people. Cody especially, but not developing some of the undercard guys. That's a problem. That's a huge issue, and I wish Triple H would fix that. All right, so here's another one. Stars should not declare for tournaments, battle royals, or elimination chambers and Royal Rumbles. They should compete for said spots like they did for ages. I think that the bigger stars shouldn't have to declare. I actually don't like the idea of declaring for the Royal Rumble anyway. I like it being random. Obviously Randy Orton's going to be in it. Is Randy Orton going to just have to, I declare for the Royal Rumble? Like, come on, who's going to not put Randy Orton in the Royal Rumble? So I agree with stuff like that. Most of like tournaments, I don't know. But the Royal Rumble, I absolutely agree that nobody's going to argue that. Why is Randy Orton in the Royal Rumble? What is he doing? What has he ever done? Who did he ever beat? You do tournaments and different things for people who are undercard. If you have like a new talent, like a Carmelo Hayes, sure, he should have to win his way into a Royal Rumble or an Elimination Chamber or something. But if you're, AJ Styles, you're a former WWE champion, why wouldn't you just be in the Royal Rumble? That seems kind of silly. Here's one. In this day and age, All In means more than WrestleMania. That's just trying to get your attention. You're just trying to grab attention. No, you got it. It worked. You got my attention. It worked. I'm not even going to justify it with a reaction, but you got it. You got my attention. I saw the words All In and I saw the words WrestleMania, and I was like, oh boy, what's that? And you got me. Here's one. Pro wrestling is for everyone. Watch what makes you happy and ignore everyone. I love me a good technical bout, but I also enjoy a good comedy match as well. I disagree with wrestling being for everyone. Nothing is for everyone. Wrestling is for wrestling fans. So it's not for everyone. And nothing is for everyone. Here's another one. Tribalism is silly. There's enough room for multiple companies for fans to choose from, and if they want to like more than one, they can. Variety is the spice of life. I think that's a very mature thing, and we cannot have maturity on these here internets. This one is particularly spicy. Bryan Danielson is overrated. Not saying he's not great, just he's overrated. I saw somebody earlier. I don't know if it was earlier today or if it was yesterday, maybe the day before. They compared Bryan Danielson to Kurt Angle and said that he's better than Kurt Angle. And I was like, ugh. Look, I don't want to do these comparisons. I will say that Danielson is probably the best wrestler of his generation. Easily. And his generation is filled with guys who are really good. He's the Bret Hart of his generation. Maybe even the Shawn Michaels of his generation. That'll probably be more like an AJ Styles. But these guys, he's tremendous. But when they're naming awards and stuff after him, maybe he is overrated amongst a certain sect of the audience who act like he's the greater than Randy Savage or, Ricky Steamboat. When you think about all the guys who are like legitimately some of the greatest wrestlers of all time, and you like Danielson's better than him, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I'll take Danielson over Kurt Hennig. I'm not sure. Did he have better matches? Probably. But no, I'm just not sure I'm willing to do that. But to each his own. But I understand the sentiment. All right, here's one that it's not really that much of a hot take. WWE isn't much better than it was 5 years ago. Fans are just happy Vince is gone and H is head of creative, despite the fact that many of the writers and other corporate folks who worked under Vince are still there. Yeah, that seems to be my view of things. But again, it's a personnel issue. There's no guarantee. Scratch that. There is a guarantee that there are certain people who are on WWE's roster right now getting pushed would not have gotten pushes under Vince. And then there's also the question of Gunther, whether he will even be there. Not saying that Vince would have buried him or anything like that, but Vince certainly wouldn't have booked him as strongly as Triple H has. He may have become world champion anyway, but you could see Gunther being positioned differently under Vince. I think Triple H not having him wrestle as much, keeping him strong, the 20-minute matches on TV for the IC title, him being IC champion as long as he was, I think it's all due to Triple H booking. I don't think Vince would have let him run with the IC title that long. Here's another one. Champions who have full year reigns are getting boring and repetitive. I like a good 4 or 5 month title reign every now and then. You want to know what? If you do like a variety of different things, let's say a guy wins a title at WrestleMania, he loses the very next night. That would shock everybody. That's the kind of stuff that should happen in wrestling from time to time. Not saying it should happen to anybody in particular. It's just the kind of things that should happen from time to time. Just to throw out some variety. As long as the opponent that he loses to matters. Like when Rey Mysterio won the title and then lost it to John Cena in the same night. It was kind of foolish at the time because you're like, why would Rey even defend the title after he just won it? But at the same time, it made his title reign stand out because it was like, man, people still remember that he challenged Rey during Rey's celebration. So we remember these kinds of things. Foley won the title at SummerSlam and then lost it the next night to Triple H. I mean, these kind of things make variety. They work. And I agree, a guy having a chokehold on the title for 6 months and, the title gets cold, which is what is happening with Cody right now, is the belt's getting a little cold. That's the fault of the booker, though. The booker is a problem. Here's one I absolutely do not agree with. Bianca is overrated and is pushed way too much. Actually, she's underrated and not pushed enough. Bryan Danielson has simply been right place, right time, and given the title not because of accolades, but because people like him. All other options were just low mid carders. The Bellas are the most overrated Hall of Fame in any industry ever. Well, everybody could hate the Bellas safely, so I don't think that's a hot take. But saying Danielson is like a right place, right time kind of guy, I think that he won people over with his personality. You know, Team Hell No really launched him to the next stratosphere, and him beating John Cena really took him over the top. That's work. That's work that he did. That is not just right place, right time. That is developing his character, developing his persona, developing his fans, getting into him as a performer. That took time to do. I disagree with that. I disagree. So let's try to get one more and then we're going to be done. So this is a strong one, I think, to close on. Talk show segments should have been put in the bin 30 years ago. So there's not a lot of hatred for the talk show segments. Not as much as I would expect. But I think there's a time and a place for it. Like, you have to break up the monotony of the matches. And I think having a talk show can work. The personality has to make it work. But I like the talk show segments. The Snake Pit, Piper's Pit, Miz TV, the Grayson Waller effect. I like it. It's good. It helps set up feuds. It really gets over the guy who can talk, even though his work might not be that great. It's fine. I don't have a problem with it. The only issue I have is there's too many of them. That's my problem. Is everybody doesn't need to have a talk show, especially not at the same time. So I think that if you're going to have the Grayson Waller effect, which should exist on SmackDown, there shouldn't be any KO shows or anything like that. But you know, I'm okay with like Miz TV or something like that in order to help guys get over. So I'm actually surprised that not more people hate the talk show segments, but I actually like them. I think they break up the monotony of match after match after match. And if somebody's really good at talking and storytelling and shit stirring, then let them do it. Let a guy like The Miz go out there and instigate. Why not? What's the harm of it? Like, it doesn't take away from anything if you still have matches on the show. My issue would be, you know, the format needs to be switched up a little bit. Because now we constantly have people interrupting these things and throwing chairs, and they break out into brawls. There has to be some kind of physicality to end it, for the most part. But so that needs to be mixed up a little bit. But for the most part, the talk shows are pretty solid. I don't have a problem with those. I know that last one was supposed to be the last one, but this one is actually probably a better one to finish on. The indies are the territories. The advent of TV wrestling didn't replace them. TV wrestling is something else entirely. I agree with this. Deadlock does Deadlock Pro Wrestling. They do shows in like the Carolinas and stuff. That's fine. Defy Wrestling does shows in like Seattle and surrounding areas up there. GCW is essentially a national promotion. They go from around, but there's still kind of local wrestling promotions like House of Glory. They do Northeast. So yeah, there's still some territory style indies. You know, it's not a problem. I actually think this is a very smart take, you know, and a strong one to end on. So let me know what you guys think about the pro wrestling hot takes. Please respond to some of these in the comment section below, and I'll talk to you guys later.